Outer Range, up to episode 6. We're going to be talking about the pit and theorizing. Spoiler warning.
Everyone, welcome back to AsArt with Nick and John. And just so you know, we just call it the pit. I don't think it has a name, but you can, please don't hate us too much. We're calling it the pit, just like we call Raised by Wolves. It's milk and it's not fuel, whatever. Anyway,
it's the
we're
hole
talking
in the
about
ground.
the hole in the ground that is the catalyst of our story, along with the material in the necklace and whatnot. And
we
we're
can't say hole in the ground. I think of a hobbit.
In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. And inside the hole on the other side is Bag End in New Zealand.
No, we're going to see Frodo writing the book, writing Lord of the Rings. No, okay, we're going way off topic already.
All right, so we had talked about this in another video, and someone might not have been recording. And so when we went back and re-recorded it, we didn't talk about the pit again.
Definitely did not talk about it like we did in the first video. So we're like, John, we need to talk about the pit. So
the pit.
We're warning you again. This is going to the spoiler theory territory. So if you don't want to hear a conversation about the pit, please click away until you at least caught up to episode 6.
Yeah.
All right, John, the pit. We know you can fall through the pit. We know you can land on the other side of the pit. And we've only seen the other side of the pit in the future so far.
Well, so...
Oh, and like the black void. Yeah.
So this is an odd question.
Yes.
But so why did the kid crawl out of the pit, whereas you fall into... I mean, did he crawl from one... I mean...
It's so interesting.
It's a cool visual thing, and maybe that's all it's intended to be, and you're not supposed to think about it beyond that. But it's like he crawled out, whereas everybody else falls. Like the body fell back through. What happened on the other side? When it fell through the first time, did somebody push it back through on the other end? And that's why the Tillersons were going to shoot Royal when they saw him, go through that first time. I mean, that's all questions we can get into, but. The kid just crawled through him like it looks like something out of the Ring, instead of crawling out of a TV, it's crawling out of the pit. It was a cool visual, but I was like, that's interesting. Like he crawled out of that. It's like, all right. But anyway.
That is very interesting because we've only seen people wake up outside the pit.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
We've only seen people enter. We haven't seen people leave the pit yet. So
yeah,
that can also be a choice that they're making for this season too. So they like don't have to worry about that until next season. They're like, we'll just shelf this and talk about it later. Put it up there on the top shelf. We don't have to worry. So it's just out of sight, out of mind.
That was a side thing.
That was a really good point though. That was a really good point because how does gravity work in the pit? Because we've seen, I think it was a vision, right? Like after he got knocked out. Where he's kind of just like floating in the pit and he sees like the dead body talking to him.
Sees Trevor.
And so it's just like, this like endless void where like it which is time, which is, it's going to get crazy, weird and confusing pretty soon because we're talking about time and I don't know how time works, but so time, it just felt like everything could be there all at once because it's not like there's time inside the pit. Because I feel like, what's that movie? It was a Christopher Nolan movie. It was about space.
Interstellar? No, not Interstellar.
Yes,
Interstellar.
Yes,
yeah,
Interstellar. Remember at the end how he's in like this weird tunnel and there's like slits of different times and he was like activating the watch.
Right?
Yeah, the bookcase, the watch, and he was like doing all that. That's what I feel like this pit is. But you can physically leave the pit if you need to. So you can be like falling through and be like, oh, it's the 40s, woohoo, and you can jump out, or it could be random. You know what I mean? Like you don't know where you're falling out kind of thing. And that's what it looks like is happening with our main character, Roy. He just kind of pops out whenever, like, and bodies pop out and mountains pop out. And so it's confusing with time. So,
well, it's interesting that the pit is usually what we see as the catalyst or the gateway to move somewhere else in time. And yet just that handshake had the mountain disappear, which is a whole other conversation, but it's interesting that the pit had nothing to do with that. It's just in that one little necklace. So that's, I'm not sure about that.
So what if something happened? Was that the only time he's touched her?
Well, she was holding on to him on the quad and stuff like that. So
okay. Cause I don't know if it was like, because they like touched hands at that moment with the material there, maybe because they both came from the pit at one point. Or something activated it. Maybe it was like a time anomaly thing because she's from a different time, he's from a different time, and they're both in a different time. And they're like, maybe it's like something, or it's like, nope, this isn't supposed to work this way. Like, it's stuff, bad stuff's gonna happen. Because when he touched the well, I guess he wasn't by the mountain. I don't know if the mountain's a holy mountain where that's the only thing that's going to disappear and reappear. But like when he was breaking it and stuff like that, yeah, he got like a vision. Or did he travel through time? Do you think he traveled through time? Because she looked at him, right? Because she physically looked at him. Maybe he did travel through time and she was able to see him and then he disappeared. That would be freaky. I would want to be on some medication too if I just started seeing people popping up and around me. Gosh, that would be pretty freaky.
It's funny, this kind of time travel where you latch onto something or something can take you through time. This is a totally random thing, but there's a game that's kind of like that but it's like witchcraft trial type stuff, and they go back and forth. It's really, really fun. But anyway, that's
it could go that way if they go culty with it.
Culty with it.
You know what I mean? Like, because like they're all wearing necklaces in the future and stuff like that. So there could be a like, you know, when 2 or 3 are united, you know, the power exceeds it or whatever, or something like that. But what do you think? Do you think it's alien related? Do you think man put it there by accident, like in the future, and it's just existing all through time now? Or
I mean, I just like the idea of it being material, natural, like you were saying. I think getting into aliens goes down a whole other path that I don't think the show necessarily needs to. I mean, when I do think of Westerns or more remote areas, not that Wyoming is really that remote, that's still like a pretty popular, you know, relatively, you know, busy place. But when I think of aliens and stuff, it's like, okay, off, you know, in the middle of nowhere and things like that. So it would fit in this world, but at the same time, I think the mysticism, I mean, I'm going to just do this very briefly, but it's like, the mysticism of the Force versus midichlorian scientific. I liked it a lot more when it was mystical, and it didn't have an explanation aside from the religious aspect to it. It had no explanation beyond that.
So do you think it has to do maybe with like a higher power, like Greek gods, or like you think they're going that route where it's like a god thing, or like being, or like, you know, or like powerful ancient gods that are, because, you know, we've heard Autumn talk about that, you know what I mean? And like stuff like that. Or do you think they're going like it's just a wacky material that's happening through space and time, like it's an unexplained anomaly, or you know, or something like that?
I think that the latter would be more suitable to this show, but she has hinted at, you know, at least as far as her crazy, you know, mind wandering, as far as it being gods and blah blah blah, and you know, and all these things. But I think if they turned a corner and all of a sudden we were talking about Greek and Roman gods and all this stuff, I think it would be too weird. Or even aliens. Aliens, if I had to do an order, I would be naturalistic material, aliens, and then way down the line is like gods and stuff like that. Because that just doesn't feel like it fits the story or the setting of this at all. You know, this is more like, this is a real world they're living in. They have regular problems that people, you know, living on big properties would have. And then if you throw all this weird, you know, Greek and Roman god stuff as a fact into the story, you're like, oh, well, this is weird. Now, some people might believe that's where it came from, like Autumn, and some people might believe it came from something else, and scientists will have an explanation here. That's fine, because I think that's, again, representing the real world and how we, you know, kind of legitimize what goes on around us and where we come from and all that stuff. So I think that would be fun, and that would fit in the world, but definitively pointing it in one direction as extreme as like Greek and Roman gods or something like that, I think would be a little bit weird. But
so
I don't know.
I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm probably wrong, but this is what I think. BY9, the company, created the whole, and I think they created it in the future, because I think it all started once they see this material, right? And they're like, what is this material? And then I think in the future they're going to be able to track it back finally to like it came from this area, which was a hole, but maybe there's going to be no hole there, so they're like, let's drill here because this is where it used to be, and that's them creating the hole, which is going to create the time loop, because it's a time loop, right? Like technically that hole could be created whenever, and then it would exist through time. You know, it's like once you change something in the future, it's going to dramatically change the past kind of thing. But
I had thought of it, of everything that's happening, and I'm sure everybody else is thinking this too, is going to lead you up to the point of when he first passed through, you know, the pit and what you see on the other side. So, you know, Autumn going to Billy because as a result of Royal rejecting her is why they lost the land. Because remember, when he went through the pit, he goes, is this our land? She goes, no, not anymore. I'm viewing that as a result of Royal's actions with Autumn is why they lost the land and why he's seeing that and hearing that from his wife on the other side. And so to me, it's like, okay, what are the steps and the stepping stones that led us to what happened on the other side of that pit?
We seem so far from it, though, don't we? You think we can cover it in 2 episodes, I guess?
No. I think this is later on down the road.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
him dying and everything, maybe that's, much later down in the road, or we don't even see that in the show. But my thought is that, this is the baby steps in the beginning of this process. And my assumption would be like, okay, Billy and his family get the land because Royal rejected Autumn and Autumn went to them. And maybe whatever material they're able to get out of that is what, made them, wealthy or whatever. And then they brought in the scientists because the dad already had the connections, things like that. I'm completely guessing, but I'm just viewing
That's
that
what
as
we do
here.
here.
This is the that's what we do. Yeah, my guess is that's the arc. We do those too. Yeah.
No, but I like that, and I like how open-ended this hole is. Get it? Like literally, like there's no end to this hole. But I like that, and I really want to hear what you guys have to think about the hole and stuff, because I'm curious who's gonna get it right. Because during Raised by Wolves, I was amazed how many people were getting things right in our comments and stuff like that. So I'm really excited. And then the comments you guys did from Severance, amazing. I couldn't believe the stuff you guys were saying. It was blowing my mind. So
yes,
please
really
let us know what's going to happen with this pit.
And again, that's one of the funnest things about these thought-provoking stories are that Nick and I do naturally like this type of material, but it's the type of stuff you sit around and talk with your friends about. And Nick and I would talk about it, but it's fun having a much broader group to enjoy this with. So let us know down in the comments below. We're going to be covering the end of this season coming up potentially next week. We'll be reviewing the episode like we usually do, or talking about the episode, and then we'll probably get into more discussions through comments that you all leave, and then just where we think the series might go, and then where you as a community think the show might go. So we'll probably over the weeks and months maybe be trickling out content for this, because it's a very fun, fascinating story that hopefully we're going to see do well. And I haven't seen any numbers. Do you know if this has been doing well for Amazon Prime, or do they even release numbers like Netflix and the rest do? Or
I don't know. I don't know if Jeff Bezos' pockets are so deep it just like nothing hurts him at this point.
But it's been a good show. I'm just hoping it's well received overall.
For season 2.
Obviously, yes, for season 2, exactly.
Don't leave us
in
hanging.
hopes of getting season 2. Yeah. So, all right, everybody, thank you very much for watching. Let us know down below. Let's keep the conversation going, and we'll continue it in later videos. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next AsArt. Not forgetting the pit time.
We can't forget the pit. Oh yeah, it's like Pearl Jam.